We go live. It should on your Facebook. All right. I think we are live on Facebook now, Anjum. We're going to confirm that it is live because, it's 2020 and things go wrong, as we were just talking about.
Of course.
And we're back for another week of Embracing the Suck interviews. I can see it on my Facebook. I hope you can as well. If you all are here with us, say hello. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week. Anjum is coming to us live this week directly from St. Pete's Beach in Florida. Obviously, it's very real. It's where she is. That is actually where she is. She works down there at St. Petersburg College. We met back in October of this year. Before October, August, we did a little work for FISCA. I'll let her tell you what that is and the full acronym. And their Region 2 retreat. But I'm going to turn it over to her and let her tell you all a little bit about who she is and what she does at St. Petersburg College.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anjum Perfetti. I currently serve at St. Petersburg College as a Student Life and Leadership Coordinator. I've been working in higher education for a number of years, starting all the way back to my undergraduate work, where I worked in housing and residence life as a resident assistant at the University of West Florida. I worked as a graduate assistant in the leadership office at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. And then prior to the position that I'm in now, I was working at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University as one of the area coordinators for their housing and residence life office. So I've been working again in higher ed for a number of years, and I'm very excited. Thank you, Nick, so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. So over the last, couple of years, I've learned a lot about myself and, how to work with students and really how to make an impact in our community. And so part of the reason that we reached out to Nick is that I serve as the Region 2 coordinator for the Florida College System Student Government Association. And so that is an association that oversees all of the SGAs across the state of Florida, the Great 28. And so we meet on a regular basis to talk about legislative matters, to work with students on their leadership skills as a state. And so thank you, Nick, for coming in October. We really appreciated it. And we look forward to working with you a little bit more as we continue on growing, FCS SGA and growing our student leaders at St. Petersburg College.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Cool. So you do a lot in your job, Anjum. Let's just be honest. You have a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And you worked with me for something not even at St. Petersburg College for like an ancillary thing with FISCA. So I know life was crazy for you and busy and hectic before 2020 hit. How's this been for you?
That's a great question. So I actually started at St. Petersburg College in 2017. I had left Embry-Riddle because I was getting married to my husband that year in 2017. So I started at one of the smaller campuses, working with students and growing their leadership skills and our student government leaders. And from there, I was asked to oversee not only the All-State Center, which was a smaller campus focused on public safety, but also larger campus now that oversees Health Education Center, Vet Tech Center, Fire Training Center, and the All-State Center. So obviously it's a very specific student population on those sites. So trying to manage events and activities for 4 sites can be a little complicated, to say the least. Luckily, I have a great team that I've been working with for a number of years to implement all of those events and activities and to really be there for students. And so this year it was a little unique when we all transitioned online back in March. We decided to look at a college level because there were 9 of us that originally were in student life and leadership to kind of look at how are we making an impact on students, what are the students' needs, and how can we really be intentional with the programming that we're offering. And so we spent a lot of time kind of really pinpointing and asking students those questions of like, what is it that you need? What is it that you're looking for? So, this year has been very different, but I like to view it as more of an opportunity. It was an opportunity for us to go back and look at, how we do things and why we do things. And I think sometimes that can get lost. And so it's really refreshing that we got to come back and take a look at, how can we do what we've been doing, what works and what doesn't work. And so that's, I feel like what 2020 has really provided was more of an opportunity to learn, to grow, to shift, to pivot. Pivot is the word of 2020.
It is the word of 2020.
And really be intentional.
Yeah, I love that the power that there is in slowing down and finding out why we're doing things, or looking at how we did them and what we can learn and grow from them. And that intentional slowdown can be so difficult, right? Like I don't want to slow down. I like the way things were going, and I like the progress we were making. And then someone says like, hey, let's just rip this rug out from underneath, and you got to stop.
Right.
But that's a challenge. So I'll ask you, what's gone well, and what's maybe not gone so well in 2020 with all that you've done. You've taken time to be intentional and slow down. How have you had to embrace the suck?
That's a great question too. So I would say some things that have gone really well is that we've kind of really been able to take a step back, all of us that kind of serve in a very similar role as mine at St. Petersburg College, to really get back to the basics, right? So we know that when we're working with students, we talk about involvement and engagement and how that's really helpful for them, which, yes, that's very true. We know through research that students who are engaged tend to persist and retain at a higher rate. However, we also have to remember that they also have basic needs that need to be met, right? So food insecurity. And a lot of our students are from, a wide variety of background and are attending college so that they can get that next job or get their first full-time job, or take that next step to move their family from the position that they're in to a better place. And, when we talk about engagement, I feel like is not just the activities and participating in that way, but really being engaged with as a college to understand those other pieces as well. So a lot of our students were coming saying that not only did they have food insecurities, but basic hygiene insecurities that they were having. They weren't able to, provide toothbrushes and toothpaste to their family members, or even soap to take a regular shower. So those are all things that we've kind of been able to really kind of get back on, refocus to say, these are the needs that our students have. And then once we accomplish that, we can move to the next phase and then continue to connect them to resources as we move forward. I think one of the challenging things is definitely online. Zoom fatigue is real. With all of the events and activities that we've been hosting at St. Petersburg College, that is what we're hearing from students. In the beginning, it was definitely a learning curve, I think, for some of our students to fully transition online or partially transition online. And I would say that was the hardest part, but we've definitely been able to kind of work and grow and educate ourselves on how to navigate those waters, because Facebook and Zoom and everything else is not always easy, but we made it work and we're all learning. So
I love that. Man, the idea of,
sorry, I know I can talk a lot.
No, it was all great. I'm saying, I think I'm reacting like that because honestly, resilience is a wonderful topic. It was necessary before 2020 came along.
Correct.
Our students and training our students to be resilient was essential before 2020. And I like to joke that 2020 came along and said, hold my beer. And are having to really teach them. But you just made me, the reason I say man is because you really just made me think about the fact that before we can even discuss resilience, we have to be able to talk about, and I've said this before, meeting people where they are. Same thing with engagement, and you all are clearly doing that. If you're discussing, we can't talk about engagement if we can't meet our basic needs, right? Breaking it down, and I think some of that comes with the intentionality of slowing down and saying, all right, what do you truly need, and having that uncomfortable conversation, for this student, you as well as the professional, that ability to sit down, and that's truly, for me, that's embracing the suck at its finest, is saying I'm uncomfortable here. I know you're uncomfortable. We want to get through this together so we can help you to be your best self. That's really-
and I think, I've talked a lot about students and how students are feeling because that's the focus of my position. But really, when you look at individuals who work within higher education, many of us have, some of our own struggles that we're so focused on students that we kind of push our basic needs aside. We kind of have stopped focusing on self-care. We've kind of stopped focusing on the things that we need to do to keep our families, strong and moving forward. And so I think being able to see it from both lenses is essential in order to really make an impact for 2021.
Yeah, I love that. What was one of those books that you had? We were talking before we jumped on here, y'all, about books we're going to be
I
reading.
have so many books.
Pull the one about the bucket. Show them the bucket.
The bucket. Okay, let me
She
see.
hasn't
So
read this, y'all, but we're talking about taking care of yourself. How full is your bucket? It's a wonderful stuff. It's okay. I know that when you got that, she's not really at the beach, y'all. Busted. So when we talk about like that self-care, that's a wonderful book, I think personally, when it comes to just the idea of not being able to pour. You hear people say in higher education all the time, you can't pour from an empty cup. How full is your bucket? But are we being intentional with ourselves as well? That's a great point, Anjum. I love that. So what does resilience look like to you? I asked you before, like, how did you have to embrace the suck? But what does resilience look like for you and for your students? How are you seeing them develop resilience as we move from 2020 to 2021? What's it look like?
that is a tough question, I think, because many folks, I feel like, look at resilience differently and what exactly it means. So I actually did some research and I looked it up in the dictionary. So there was actually two different definitions of what resilience is. And they were very similar, but also different. One talked about how you kind of need to be able to be flexible and be able to be molded. And then the other one was about coming back, time after time again, keep moving forward. And so I think, when you look at resilience, especially with the student population that I'm working with, as well as, that I've been focusing on myself, I think you really need to have a mixture of both of those aspects. It's important to be flexible and to be patient and to really take the time to listen, right? Because that's how you're going to be able to kind of navigate through these tough times. But also being able to come back and keep trying and trying and trying. So an example that I've kind of used is I have kind of gone in and out of my journey through fitness and self-care. And so a couple years ago, I was doing great. I was rocking it. I was like, yes, this is the best thing ever. And then I kind of slowed back down and was like, hey, I think I'm just going to take some time to focus on these other things, which were also essentially something that I needed to focus on as well in terms of my own self-care. And so now I'm back at it, right? Because I could very easily be like, 2020 has been a total bust. I'm just going to ride out the rest of this year and I'll start in 2021. But I was like, you know what? No, because today is the day. Today is the day. So let's keep it forward. So I think that's how we have to look at a lot of things, is being able to be flexible, but also being able to keep trying, to keep pushing, even when we don't want to, because that's going to make us stronger people.
Amen to that. It's that honesty too. I think when you share that with the students of like, I'm going through this too. Like, I want to bounce back. I want to bounce forward. I want to be flexible, but it's not always easy. It's a struggle to get through it at times. And some days you make it to the gym. Some days you celebrate Taco Tuesday a little too hard. That's life.
That's true.
It's called balance.
Right.
We oftentimes live in a world where it feels like it's either like yes or no, and it's not. Like, it's not right. Like you're either healthy or you're not. Like, you just right. Live your life. And it's the same thing. I think of this. I love that analogy because it's the same way with resilience. You don't either have it or you don't have it. Like, it's a journey.
Right.
It really truly is. There are some days when I'm like, I don't want to do this, and that's okay.
There's a lot of days in 2020 that I'm like, I don't want to do this. But you don't really, I mean, you have a choice. And I feel like you also have a choice to choose to be positive or a choice to choose to be negative. So 2020 could be a total bust, but I feel like it's just the lens in which you're looking at it through.
Yeah. There's a wonderful song that came out from Jason Mraz. Jason Mraz is one of my favorite artists of all time. He actually, for those who don't know, I don't know if you know this, Anjum, but he, my wife and I danced to I'm Yours. That's our wedding song. So Jason Mraz, big fan, one of our very first dates, love him. But he came out with a new song called Look for the Good. And if people haven't heard it, go listen to it. But the key of it for me is not the good, but the looking part. Like, you have to look for it. Like, and that's the same thing with resilience. If you're not looking for it, you'll never find it.
Right.
And I think we have to model that sometimes for students as well.
One of my favorite quotes that I have been able to kind of keep with me over the years is, today is a good day for a good day. And I think if you can keep that, the goodness that is, a part of life, and just kind of focus on, today is a good day, no matter what happens, today is still a good day, because there's certain pieces that were good. And I think when we're talking about resilience, there might be certain areas that you're really strong in that one day, right? And others that you aren't, but you just got to keep trying and pushing forward.
I love that. Again, though, going back to what you said, even about engagement, like sometimes that's harder just based on the fact that you might not have the basic needs, or we could talk about things even like, people's identities and, the different oppression that people have and the privilege of people. There's so much of it that we could sit here and unpack. We've only got so much time on our Facebook Live, so we won't get into all of it. But I do want to know if you have any tips or tricks that have been really successful for you this semester in working with students. I know you've had to do some work around COVID-19 as well, and even some how that's impacting students, but anything that you would offer to higher education professionals specifically, you're like, this was wonderful, or don't do this thing, like this was a total flop, and embrace the suck hard. What do you got?
So I mentioned before, I used to work in housing, and students used to call the duty phone, if you will, constantly. So I really tried to not give out my cell phone number to students. Like, that is my boundary line. Like, if you need me, you can call me on my office phone. You can send me an email and I'll get back to you. And so for those housing people, you might not be able to take that step back. But that has really been really helpful for me, because I know there's a lot of students that feel like what they're going through is an emergency and they need help now. What sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And so I've just kind of found to set like a regular schedule, right? So I try and stick with, okay, I know these are my work hours. This is when I try to be available. And I think that's helpful for me, because I know, okay, at such and such time, I need to kind of power down. Because I was finding myself at the beginning of like March kind of pouring from that empty cup that we were talking about earlier. So I would say set boundaries. Boundaries are important. They are essential for your self-care. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just remember that all of us are going through tough situations, whether it's related to COVID, whether it's related to family matters. I know, Nick, you've talked a lot about this with some of your sessions, like, don't compare your baggage and your weight to other people. We all have weight that we're carrying around. And so just treat people with kindness, treat people with respect, give people that patience that you would like to see, and just really be that listening ear. Because at the end of the day, that's really going to be helpful for you as that professional, but also for the students that you're working with. And then finally, just really having those connections within higher education and outside of higher education that you can talk with. We're all kind of living in this crazy world, but it's a lot easier now because all of us know how to use Zoom or Skype. It's a great way to stay connected. And so just because we are disconnected, face to face, doesn't mean that we have to stay disconnected virtually.
Love that. I have to say, you put that a whole lot more eloquently than I do. I think I say, don't compare your crap. We all have crap. If I'm being fully honest.
True.
We do all carry baggage. We need to treat each other with kindness. One of the things that I've found really interesting about 2020 is that I think 2020 has exposed that we all do have something. I think sometimes we forget that. We think people live in like, this wonderful world, like they've got it so great. Everyone's going through something.
Right.
We've all gone through 2020 in some way, shape, or form. Like, you couldn't not experience it. It was, if someone didn't experience 2020 and you're in the comment, like, let me know, like, tell me like how you survived not experiencing 2020.
Direct message me. I want to know how you did it.
Exactly. Like, if you pulled a Marty McFly and just like skipped this year and like went forward to 2021, that'd be amazing. Right. But really, like, everyone experienced something. Mm-hmm. There's no sense in comparing it, like what I went through versus what you went through versus what anyone else who's watching this went through. Let's just treat each other with a little kindness. I think if we can all do that and take that away from 2020, 2021 and moving forward, it's going to be every single day, just like you said, today's a good day for us to to wake up and do something good. That's shades of one of my favorite speakers and friends, Stan Pearson. I don't know if you know Stan Pearson, but if anyone follows Stan, go check him out. He's constantly reminding people today's a great day to do something great. And I think that's extremely important to remember. Every day is an opportunity. You're right. 2020 has absolutely been an opportunity. Thank you for being with me today, Anjum.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
For anyone who is curious, this was the sweater I had on today. I meant to shout this out earlier. I wore this last week for one of my holiday keynotes and thought, you know what, I'm going to wear this. This is our last Embracing the Suck interview of the 2020 year. We'll do some more live stuff over the next couple weeks, but I'm going to slow down and listen to what Anjum said, y'all, and take a little time for myself as well and fill my bucket and my cup. I hope you will do the same. I know Anjum's going to as well. That's why you got the background up, right? What's the background?
Of course. And to be honest, I feel like, today is the day that we all need to remember that we can just take it easy. We have a couple weeks to recuperate, rejuvenate, and re-energize.
Yes. Slow down, people. Go do something for yourself.
Exactly.
I see you all on the interwebs somewhere, sometime soon. Thanks again, Anjum.
You're
Y'all
welcome.
have a great rest of your day. Don't stop chasing the awesome life.